Patty Juzing here from the Grounds for Discussion podcast. I am at Streetside Studio 7, located inside Deja Blue House of Coffee in Alexandria, Minnesota. And I'm back with Becky Schmitz from Viking Land Community Support Program. I did it again for a second time. I love it.
It's a lot in one breath.
Yes. So we had Becky on yesterday to do a preview, and she's back. We're going to dig a little deeper into what she does. And the one thing I really want to talk about, Becky, is the mental health toolbox.
Yes.
That's so fascinating.
Yeah. Okay, so we, when we got shut down back during COVID, I had this vision, and I had been working in mental health for many, many years and doing groups, and so talking about the mental health toolbox. However, I knew that it had a little bit more of it could have more of a presence, it could have more of a vision. And so when I started doing my Facebook Live videos, I actually had been putting them on LinkedIn. And so this blog out of India called healthyu.com had reached out and had asked if I'd be a contributor for their blog. And so, of course, I did.
So India,
Yeah.
like legit India,
Yeah.
they reach out to you? How did they find you? They must have found you on
Just
Facebook.
LinkedIn, and it was something that they were starting. I think they were starting more of a health and wellness approach during COVID for their blog, but then they reached out and wanted to talk more about mental health, which was exceptional. And so from there, it just really kind of came to life. And so what I have done is partnered a tool like a hammer or a screwdriver, and then paired it with a coping skill that I think kind of resembles that tool. The theory behind it for me is, especially when we're at our worst and we're not feeling well mentally, it's really easy to forget all of our skills, all of our tools, all of our supports. And so this to me, I'm a visual person. And so this to me is kind of one of those visual aids and those reminders that we need to be like, all right, I need to get out my hammer. And the hammer is all about motivation and what's your purpose. And my hope is that then it kind of clicks for people and it's something that sticks. And so the toolbox came alive. Currently, I have about 13 tools that I have wrote about.
So the toolbox,
Yeah.
that's an actual tangible toolbox.
Yes.
Like legit, it's,
Yes.
you can grab it, you can pick out a tool,
Yep.
and what then was your vision for, let's say, your hammer?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I have a toolbox and I paint them red, so they come wooden. And
I love that.
I have to assemble them all. I have to hot glue them all, and then I spray paint them red. I didn't want them to be green because I think that there is still so much stigma behind mental health that if you've seen a green toolbox,
sure.
which resembles mental health, people would instantly kind of look away, right?
Sure.
But a red toolbox is like, oh, that's intriguing. What is that? So it strikes up
So
conversation.
you were intentional even with your
Yes.
color.
Yes.
Okay.
But little did I know that spray paint is actually very dangerous. It gets everywhere. It's not actually a very, it sprays everywhere. So I did this in the middle of the winter. I sprayed some of my first toolboxes, okay? And I started to notice after spraying them that the spray paint was all over the place and all over my garage floor. So I was like, okay, I need to move this outside. So then it just looks like I drug the paint all the way out into the snow. But anyway, so I put
So
together
there's this drag of red.
Yeah, it looked really suspicious.
No, I bet.
I needed to let my neighbors know everybody's okay.
Yeah.
We're okay.
It's
There's
just
nothing
paint.
to be concerned about. It's simply paint. So I assembled the toolboxes, and then the theory is, so then I have all my tools, and so I love the act of cutting them out and learning about them and seeing and writing. To me, it just reinforces everything in your brain that you need to remember.
Mm-hmm.
So the tools come and you cut them out with me and you write on the back. So the hammer equals motivation. That's the very first one in my workbook. And so from there, we go through an entire page of what that would look like to implement the hammer into your life.
So your toolbox comes with the workbook then,
Mm-hmm.
and an individual legitimately works through that
Yes.
workbook
Yep.
with each tool.
Yep.
And what else do you have in there? What other tool do you have?
Well, so like I said, I have 13 of them. So every single one of them represents something. So like the screwdriver to me was about the circle of control, right? And so we talk about understanding and recognizing that you're only control of yourself, your thoughts, your actions, your reactions, your future, right? And we can't control anything outside of that. Then we have the saw. The saw is one of my favorites. It feels a little aggressive, but it's all about kind of eliminating those toxic individuals in our life.
How big would you say? I like that though.
Well, they're all little, so
Okay.
they fit in the toolbox.
Nice.
So you can carry it around with
Sure.
you. The workbook is little. You can carry it all with you. I didn't want it to be something that was unmanageable,
Sure.
but like something that was still impactful.
Sure.
Whether you were 5 years old or 95 years old. And so I've gotten an opportunity to present this to all ages. Some of my favorites were the children. I'm from Frazee, Minnesota, and so I had an opportunity. They have started a community club essentially for children up there. And so I got an opportunity to speak to them last summer. And so there was this little boy, he must have been about 5 years old. And what he got out of that was just simply even the intricacy of cutting out the tools, very proper. And he came up and he laid them all out for me because he just wanted to show me
He was so
how
proud.
well he cut the
Yes.
tools out. And even if that's one thing that sticks in his mind, that's what's important about it. So then I have the socket set. Everybody knows you need different sockets for different measurements. That to me represents your social supports, your support system. Everybody plays a different role in your life, whether it's your family, your friends, your church family, whatever it may be, they all play a different role. And so that's where the socket set comes into play.
You really thought this out.
Really, it is. But it's kind of ironic how, it almost started to take that shape all in itself. Like I researched, so I would think of a tool and I was like, okay, the socket set. And I would kind of look at the definitions and do some research on the internet, right? And I was like, okay, so I would kind of understand how that all, I know how to use it, but I want the definition of it. And then from there, I was like, well, this really makes sense to me of how I teach people this or that or whatever. Some of my newest ones are pretty fun. I am excited for the jack to come out. And
So you're adding tools.
yeah, I'm adding tools, and it's been, like I said, they just kind of like have came to life. And so somebody suggests a tool to me, and then I'm like, wow, I haven't gotten an opportunity to write about that yet. And so I look forward to that. And I'm thankful to have the platform that I do right here in our community. Definitive Women Magazine has allowed me to then continue to, embrace the toolbox and write about the toolbox and have an audience for it, which to me is important because I like the feedback. If it's something that I love when people read it and they're like, that makes so much sense, then that feels like I accomplished something and they will hopefully remember that and continue to utilize it.
So yesterday we talked briefly about off camera that it was not an easy process. What was your process to get an actual physical toolbox and have it be the color red and the tools that you have in there?
So I'm lucky enough to have a brother that's a lawyer. And so I knew that when I started this, I felt like I was really onto something. And I didn't want anybody else to think that they could use this.
Sure.
And so before I sort of unveiled it all or started talking about it, I wanted to trademark it. And so I'd reached out to my brother and I thought like, sign up, fill out an application, turn in the form, you're going to be done. But I was definitely wrong. And so it took a little over a year to complete the process.
That's pretty wild.
It is. And you have to show it in motion. So I thought I had a really great idea, but I hadn't necessarily used the toolbox in motion. And I didn't have the red toolbox necessarily. And I didn't have a logo and things like that. And so there comes cost with it. And just putting it all together and kind of seeing it all come to life. And so I guess that's branding, right? I learned a lot along the way.
Right.
And so the tools and the toolbox and the workbook, and they all match. And so then you fill it back out in this form. You kind of appeal their decision. At first they said no, and that was disappointing. And so
they being the trademark people.
United States of America, the federal government gets to tell you whether or not they like your idea or not.
Wow.
And then you kind of appeal it and you come back and say, okay, here's what I'm doing. And
I had no idea that it was this involved.
No, I didn't either.
Crazy.
And so you have to have, your stationery and just how you plan. And that makes sense to me. I mean, they want to make sure that if they're going to give you this trademark, that you're going to use it, not just like hold on to it, maybe necessarily. So we appealed it. That was maybe in like August.
Of what year? What'd you say?
2023.
Okay.
So that was after I mean, almost a year at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, one day, January 9th, 2024, I get an email from the United States trademark, whatever you want to call it. And anyways, and surprise, surprise, the Toolbox was trademarked and you can utilize it. And
so when you got that notice,
Yeah.
the email, did you do a happy dance? Were you like, oh my gosh, who was the first person you called?
actually, I thanked my brother. I mean,
that's so sweet.
Well, when you get
Yes.
free legal service.
Yes. Thank you, brother, wherever
Thank you,
are.
thank you, Ben. But really, it was just kind of a surreal moment. I didn't really say a whole lot. I think I probably said something right away on Facebook. I think it was like a Monday or Tuesday morning. I was like, you guys, it's trademarked. But it was just, it really, like I said, it just was so interesting how it all came to life. And then to be at this place where it's trademarked and it's mine and I get to do things with it. And I love to name things. And so I always wanted a redheaded daughter named Ruby. And so,
my gosh.
so now I have
love
I have a red toolbox named Ruby,
Oh.
and her and I go places. And it's just been a really special to be able to share it with people and then have them enjoy it and want to learn more, something that I thought up in my head, and I guess they like it. And so I'm extremely honored and humbled by all of it, and just grateful that it's effective and that people are learning from it.
So where do you and Ruby go?
Ruby and I have we've spoke to truckers. That was a new experience.
That sounds kind of fun.
It was, and it was eye-opening to me. One of the first times that I really had to start making the toolbox versatile, right? Like, I was used to the certain individuals that I spoke to on kind of a normal basis,
Mhm.
right? But it made me have to look at the toolbox and say, now, how am I going to present this to a different audience? And so that was a really great learning experience.
What were they like, the truckers?
A little bit more matter of fact than
Oh,
I expected.
sure.
You know, a little bit more like they just wanted these concrete answers. And unfortunately, you can't really give that in mental health, right? Like,
Mhm.
there's no, I mean, if I had like a magic potion to make everything better, that would be great, right, for all of us. But I couldn't necessarily answer their questions to the extent that they were hoping for.
Mhm.
However, it brought up good conversation, and oddly enough, I learned that the average life expectancy of a truck driver is 60, based off of
60?
yeah,
Becky, you said 60?
well, based off of their health and wellness, right,
suppose.
and just moving their bodies and their
Mhm.
mental health, and so I learned a lot, and I had an opportunity to meet some really interesting individuals who are working to change this for truck drivers, and so that was a lot of fun. But they liked the toolbox, and so when I kind of walked away from that experience, I wasn't quite sure because it was a quieter crowd, right?
Mhm.
But then the feedback was great, and so then I know that they took something away from
Sure.
that, which was exciting. So we've been there. We've been to Frazee. We've been to all the way down to Glencoe, which was really great. We got to speak at a conference for a lady named Tammy Dean has started this organization down there in memory of her sister who took her life.
Mm.
And so this organization primarily speaks to teenagers. They're all trained, and they go to a lot of the metro schools, and they teach youth essentially how to recognize
Mhm.
warning signs from their peers and what to do with that, which is amazing all in itself. And so, again,
I am so happy to hear that's being done, because I think about myself in high school. I won't say how long ago. There wasn't that conversation happening
no,
amongst my peers.
Yeah.
There just wasn't. So it's nice to hear
Yeah.
that that's being done.
yeah, it's really great. And so then they graduate from it, which is exceptional, and they get a certificate, which really reinforces, like, you have personal responsibility now to hopefully pay attention to people around you and speak up if you see something that's maybe not normal or concerning, right? And so again, she's just kind of a resource that I got connected with through social media, which is a powerful tool. And her and I had stayed connected, and then she had asked me to come to their conference. And that was the largest group of individuals that Ruby and I talked to, so that was fun.
How many people did you and Ruby talk to?
350 people, and it was great.
350?
Yeah.
Okay. We talked about a little bit about this yesterday, so
Love
I
it.
would be like gripping the table, like freaking out. How did you do?
I was so
in your
I was
element?
like on this rush, like this
good.
high, and I didn't even really expect it. I love being on stage. I have a history of enjoying being on stage. I've been in pageants. And so I didn't really expect the rush that I got. You never really know. I mean, obviously you get this anxious energy before you go on stage, and somehow or another you always seem to perform and say what you have to say. But this was a whole nother level. I didn't really anticipate feeling when I was on there. And I had 35 minutes, which, let's be honest, I mean, I could talk for hours. So I had 35 minutes to say everything that I wanted to say, and it was like ready, set, go, and it's amazing how it just all flows out of your mouth. And so everybody loved it, and it was a lot of fun. And I got to talk about how, yes, Ruby and I match. I wear red.
Oh my gosh,
I wear a red
love
coat
that.
and I wear red heels, and we match. And it's a part of the process. If I always know that when I see speakers, the things that stick out to me are just kind of some of those little things that kind of draw you in when you're you're listening to them. So that was a lot of fun. But yeah, 350 people was excellent. And I think that if there was like 3,000 people, it would have been even more exciting.
So what's next for you and Ruby? Do you have a tour you're doing with Ruby?
You know, I have some things on the docket for 2025. I'm pretty excited about. Again, it's just been people reaching out, which is phenomenal. I think I might be a part of a training coming June with Ruby, which is really awesome because it's been fun to see it again kind of come to life with youth because it makes sense. It's simple. It's not something that takes a lot of memory to be able to remember the tools. So we're doing that. I think I've been asked to speak at the Minnesota Telecommunications Association group. And so it's interesting every time I open my email and see people that have reached out. And like I said, it's just an honor. And I'm always so privileged to be able to have those opportunities and to speak and to just continue to share the toolbox. That means a lot to me. And it's just kind of become a part of like who I am. It almost makes you a little emotional. Like Ruby and I are pals. This wood toolbox and I are pals.
I love it.
And so, but the best part about this is so I hot glue gun a lot of the science. And again, I like to name things. And so when I did this conference in October down in Glencoe, I had to do 200 toolboxes. It took me days.
Oh my gosh.
But I named my glue gun Glinda.
Oh.
So Glinda and I were very busy. I think she was getting real tired by the end of it. So Glinda's been on a vacation now for a little bit, which is good. But Glinda and Ruby and I were pals. So
my gosh, I love that you name your help.
Yeah. Well, it makes it more personal. So I like that. Name everything.
So the toolbox and your public speaking.
Yep.
Do you have is there anything, so I saw you speak this past October at the Domestic Violence Awareness Luncheon. And for those that don't know Becky, or have never seen her in a public speaking situation, she is a powerhouse. She's very direct. She'll capture your attention. Who gets more attention, you or Ruby?
You know, so far I think me, but she probably will take that over too. You know, I love to just have that. Whenever I get on stage, for me, it's an opportunity to teach or help somebody. I mean, that's my primary goal as a public speaker, or wanting to continue to public speak. I've been through my own life circumstances that have put me in a position to feel lonely or lost. And so, you know, I've worked in mental health for the last 18 years. I love everything about my job and what I get to do on a daily basis. I love the people that come through the door and that I get to help. But I know that outside of our community here, which is wonderful, there's a lot of struggling people. And that's what I want to do, is continue to reach out to those that need it. Because, you know, one of the things that people don't recognize is for our community, we have a significant amount of services. Like, we're really lucky. But not a lot of communities are lucky to have what we have. And so, and I know that, and that's just what I want to do, is speak about whether it's domestic violence or mental health, continue to make sure that those doors are being opened. And, and people hear the things that maybe they need to get the help that they need, or maybe they hear about a tool or something that they can utilize in their life. And most importantly, just to know that they're not alone. That's important to me. I don't want anybody to feel like they're alone and they have absolutely nowhere to turn to, because that's not true. And I always offer, my door is open. If you need something, please reach out. I may not have all the answers because I'm not an expert, but at least I could maybe turn you to the right resources that you need to help you get through whatever you're experiencing, because I know that life is stressful.
Locally, here in Alexandria, Minnesota, where can people find you?
Well, here in Alexandria, we're located at 1106 Broadway, so right down the road, essentially. But you can also, one of the things that I continue to do is my Facebook Live videos every Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Even though we're in 2025, there's still a lot of stigma behind mental health. And so I know for a fact there are individuals who are not putting themselves out there to get the help and support that they need. So, our videos started as a way to stay connected with folks, to help them through COVID, and really truly have turned into an opportunity for anybody in the community that just needs to hear something, kind of that opportunity to do that in the privacy of their own home, and maybe not step out into the world that can be so scary when you're getting mental health help. And so that's 1106 Broadway, the Facebook Live videos. One of the things that's really excellent about our offices too is that we're connected to the drop-in center. So the drop-in center is open every day of the week except for Sunday, but we have a lot of opportunities for you to have activities and try something new. One of the phenomena is diamond art. Our whole building was full of individuals doing diamond art today, but they're free activities that get you out of the house, hopefully allow you to connect with somebody, and that's the hope, is that maybe you walk out the door and you have a new friend that you can continue to build that relationship with. So yeah, I mean, we try to put ourselves out there as much as possible. We have our annual mental health walk, which is going to be May 16th this year. We encourage everybody to be a part of that, help us stomp out the stigma. I hope someday it becomes more normalized. It's no different than going to the doctor and getting an antibiotic for a sinus infection or a cold this time of year. If you aren't feeling well and you know something's not right, it's okay to get help. And it's okay not to be okay, and you don't have to feel that way. Like, there is help out there for you to feel better and to feel normal again.
So you do feel very passionately about mental health, and you are truly an advocate for those in our community that do have mental health concerns.
Yeah.
Searching for the right word.
Well, I just think it's important for people to be able to have a safe place to talk about what they're thinking, what they're feeling, and then to normalize those feelings. I think there's just so many of us out there, and we've all been in that place in life where we started to feel like we weren't ourselves, or maybe we were thinking things that aren't normally what we would think. And that can be a very scary place to be in. And so by just kind of normalizing that, or allowing somebody to say it out loud and kind of talk through that, hopefully it puts you in a better position to be able to kind of tackle those things. And then I'd break out the toolbox and say, what can you do to help yourself, and boundaries or people that you need to maybe set yourself apart from, and or crisis prevention. The toolbox itself is a tool of crisis prevention, and knowing those resources, knowing that if you need something, you can call. We have a crisis team here in Douglas County you can reach out to, or 988 is a text line that you can utilize, that a professional will be on the other end helping you kind of talk through things. Again, it's private, and nobody has to know. But again, it doesn't necessarily have to be about that. I'm hoping that someday it'll become something that's a little bit more normal to say, hey, I don't feel good, and here's what's going on. And then just kind of getting those resources that you need to feel better.
Well, I can say for certain, Becky, that you are definitely trailblazing right here in Alexandria. I am so proud of you that you took this vision and this feeling on a toolbox and you saw it through, you developed it, it's now trademarked. You've had how many boxes out there? Like, do you have any idea how many?
Okay, so I think that I left off at about 240 toolboxes that I got to give to folks, which that's a lot of.
That is a lot.
That's a lot of work for Glinda. That's a lot of red paint. That's a lot of assembly. My kids don't help anymore because they don't like to put them together.
Oh no.
But it's.
We'll help you, Becky. I will help you.
It's really wild to just look at it all and be like, 240 toolboxes from something that I just thought of in the kitchen and wrote down in a notebook and just started, writing about. And furthermore, I didn't even like writing, but it turns out I really do now in my adult life, right? Like,
that. Yes.
in high school, that was one of my least favorite things. And now I love it. And I love writing a story that people can connect with, and then having people read it and then contact me and enjoy that. Um,
Is the mental health toolbox available through Viking Land Community Support? So if I now know that it's available and I know the individual behind it,
Yeah.
could I go in there and request one?
Yes, and actually you requested through me, and so that's one of the things that's been interesting. Obviously, Viking Lands allowed me kind of that platform to get myself out there. But the toolbox and I, yes, that's something that I do individually on my own. But I do obviously, do groups at Viking Land with it as well. So if you want one, you just got to let me know, and I would love to be able to give you one.
You heard that, folks. If you would like to check out the mental health toolbox, you can find it through Becky at Viking Land. I'm going to say this right. Viking Land Community Support Program right here in Alexandria, Minnesota. Real quick, Becky, I'm going to take us down another rabbit hole.
Yep.
Maybe just kind of a little bit in there. You mentioned domestic violence.
Yep.
Do you see a lot of that through Viking Land CSP?
Yep.
Or is it other work that you do?
Well, so as the executive director at Viking Land, I do all the intakes. And so, yes, I see men and women. And so it's interesting because I think that there may be a bit of a stigma behind, this primarily being a female issue. However, I've had the opportunity to see it from a male perspective as well. And so it's something that I experience often with individuals. Thankfully, we have some pretty amazing resources here, like Someplace Safe, that I can refer people to get those extra supports that they need. But it's just something that I know that our community struggles from, whether you hear about it through our work or in the community, just listening. I had an opportunity to speak to the Rotary Club last year, and it was interesting then to have some of those men come up to me and say, here's what I see happening in my neighborhood, and what do I do about that? And so if we could just keep talking about it or putting it out there in the community. And so we're a part of an organization called UCAN, United Communities Advocating Nonviolence. And so our mission is really to just put it out there, make people aware, and keep talking about it so that people say, you know what, this isn't okay, and this is maybe not normal, and we should do something about this or reach out to help. And so again, just making it something that kind of is brought to life, because this last year, Minnesota, so 2023 actually it would have been, had one of their highest years of domestic violence murders, we'll call it. And we had 41 or 42 silhouettes that represented those individuals that had their life taken because of that.
And these silhouettes were presented at the Domestic Violence Awareness Luncheon this past October. Is there a specific day in October that is the Domestic Violence Awareness Day?
Well, the whole month of October is that. And as far as a specific day, I would probably have to look that up because now it's not coming to me. But our dates are, I believe this coming year, are the 14th and the 15th of October. That will really focus on kind of making that surge into the community for some awareness. We do a Take a Stand event here in the community, and then we also have our luncheon, which is extremely powerful to see these silhouettes and to see these families. I've had an opportunity to connect with a family because of their daughter Ariel, who had her life taken, and it's just been really, it's really moving to see that and to see how it affects an entire family and to see how it affects an entire community. And the fact that we just need to do more about that, to kind of create that peace, or to know that mostly for me, it's just so that individuals know that you don't have to live in that environment, and there are safe places out there for you, because that's the very first issue, is that it's scary to leave. And where do I go? And then trying to work through some of that manipulation that you've been told that you can't leave. And so again, it's just talking about it and just being that face and being that voice that hopefully somebody hears that needs help and takes the step to get out of that situation.
So are these events, whether it's the mental health awareness walk or the You Can luncheon, where can folks find more information?
So you can look us up on Facebook. Again, always a great resource. I believe soon we'll be putting out some save the dates so that people are aware of it. We just kind of finalized locations and where we do the stand and the luncheon. So we should be having some save the dates come out. Mostly that's kind of where it's at. And honestly, it's just a matter too of reaching out. You can reach out to me. And if you want to know more about that, any of our members. So it's just kind of hopefully in the next year putting more of our faces out there so that people can kind of reach out if need be, because it comes with a lot of responsibility too, being that face of trying to help individuals and then being able to provide them those resources.
Well, Becky, I appreciate you coming back again to dig a little deeper in what it is that you do. I'd like to have you come back so we can talk about sparkles.
Sparkles are my favorite.
Yes, so Becky and I have a connection. Didn't know it until recently. We both are major girly girls.
Yep.
We both love sparkles, so I think we should do a fun episode on sparkles.
One of the things that I noticed the very first time I walked into your shop was that. And then I was like, we need to be friends.
Yes.
Because we can bedazzle everything. This is great.
I love that. It's so true. So I want to thank you for coming in again. And I just want to share once again what an inspiration you are to me. You motivate me with your passion, with your sincerity to get out into the community and do my part because we all can. Would you agree? We all can do a little something.
And it doesn't have to be major. Just the little things. I mean, one of the things that's coming up February is Random Acts of Kindness. I mean, that right there can just be such a huge way to make a difference in somebody's life because you just don't know. It's as simple as saying hello to somebody or smiling at somebody who could be struggling, who was maybe thinking about taking their life. But because you smiled at them or because you said hi to them, they felt a little bit of hope and they felt a little bit of sunshine. I mean, you don't have to, do these big earth-shattering events to make a difference. It's just simply just being kind and trying to help people along the way as best you can. So yes, we can all make a difference if we just put our best foot forward and give it a try.
She means it and she's legit.
Thank you.
So please reach out to Becky if you have anything you want to talk to her about in regards to mental health. Find her again at Vikingland Community Support Program right here in Alexandria, Minnesota. Becky, do you have a phone number?
320-763-6261. And again, all of our information is always updated on Facebook. We're working on the website a little bit more. But anyways, you can find us on Facebook. That's where all of our activities are. Any sort of information that you need, all of our contact information is there as well.
Wonderful. Thank you so much again.
Thank you.
Yes, and we'll see you soon.